Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. I, 28 male, never thought I'd end up here, writing about the nightmare my life has turned into. Growing up, I had what I thought was a normal family. My parents, Susan, 56 female, and Mark, 59 male, were hardworking and always supportive of me. My dad, a calm and steady man, worked tirelessly to ensure our family was financially secure, while my mom was the ambitious dreamer, always coming up with big plans and ideas for how to improve our lives. But as I've come to learn, that ambition often wasn't a good trait. For most of my life, we lived in a beautiful house that had been in my dad's family for generations. It wasn't a mansion by any means, but it had character. Creaky wooden floors, a sprawling garden, and memories etched into every corner. My grandparents lived there, my dad grew up there, and when I came along, it became the backdrop for my own childhood. That house was more than just a building. It was a piece of our family's history. About a year ago, my mom started talking about this incredible investment opportunity. She said it was a once-in-a-lifetime chance to make millions. She had connections, important people who were already involved, and she was convinced that if we sold the family home, we could invest the money and secure a future that none of us could even imagine. She painted a vivid picture, a luxurious life, financial freedom, and the ability to leave a legacy even greater than the house itself. My dad was hesitant at first. He loved that house and the memories it held. But my mom is persuasive, and she had a way of making you feel like you're foolish for doubting her. She assured him that this was for the family, for our future, and that it would be irresponsible not to take the chance. She played on his love for her, on his trust, and on his desire to provide for me. Reluctantly, he agreed. I remember the day we sold the house vividly. My dad looked like he'd aged 10 years overnight. He tried to put on a brave face, but I could tell how much it hurt him. My mom, on the other hand, was ecstatic. She was full of energy, talking about all the things we'd be able to do once the investment paid off. She even said we could buy back the house and more once we'd made our millions. Except none of that happened. Shortly after the sale, my mom started acting distant. She'd always been the type to keep a busy social life, but now she was disappearing for days at a time. She said it was related to the investment, that she needed to meet with people, travel, and finalize deals. My dad, ever trusting, believed her. I wasn't so sure. One day, my dad came home to an empty house. My mom was gone. No note, no explanation, just gone. It didn't take long to figure out where she'd gone. She'd run off with another man. And not just any man, but someone she'd been having an affair with for years. All the money from the house sale? Gone too. She'd funneled it into accounts we couldn't access, leaving my dad and me with nothing. The betrayal was like a punch to the gut. My dad was devastated. He blamed himself for trusting her, for selling the house, for not seeing the signs. And to me, I was furious. How could she do this to us, to him, to the family she'd claimed to love so much? But it gets worse. Recently, my mom reached out. She didn't apologize or attempt to make amends. Instead, she asked me to come live with her and her affair partner. She said she was divorcing my father because, in her words, he's a loser, and she planned to marry her affair partner. I was so shocked I could barely respond, but I managed to say, no way. That's when her threats started. She told me that once her so-called investment pays off, she plans to leave everything to her affair partner's daughter. She said I didn't need anything from her because, as a man, I could provide for myself. She claimed that this girl needed her more and deserved to inherit everything she has. I hung up on her. I was speechless. Not only had she destroyed our family and taking everything we had, but now she was rewriting history, acting like I was some afterthought in her life. She's framing it as though she's being generous and maternal, but it's just another slap in the face. My dad's health has been declining since all this happened. The stress, the heartbreak, it's taken a toll. We're renting a small apartment now, and while we're getting by, it's a far cry from the life we had before. My dad refuses to badmouth my mom, even after everything she's done. He says he doesn't want to tarnish my view of her, but I think he's just too hurt to talk about it. I, on the other hand, have no such reservations. I've told her exactly what I think of her. I told her she's selfish, manipulative, and cruel. I told her that she's ruined our family and that she has no right to pretend she's some kind of savior to her affair partner's daughter. Her response? She called me ungrateful. She said I should be happy for her, that she's finally living the life she's always wanted. She even had the audacity to tell me that selling the house was for my benefit too, that it was a necessary sacrifice to secure a better future for all of us. As if that excuses the fact that she took everything and ran. The house wasn't just a property. It was a part of who we were. My grandparents built their lives in it, and my dad poured his soul into preserving it. And now it's gone, along with everything it represented. I've blocked her on everything, but she still finds ways to get under my skin. She's told mutual friends and family members that I'm bitter, that I'm clinging to the past, and that I need to get over it and think about her happiness for once. Some of them have even taken her side, saying that I should be happy for her if she's found love and fulfillment. They act like I'm the bad guy for not supporting her new family, which is mind-blowing. Reddit. Am I the a-hole for refusing to forgive my mom and for cutting her out of my life completely? OP's mom's actions are beyond selfish. They're outright cruel. She didn't just betray OP's dad. She betrayed OP too. And now she's trying to act like OP is the problem? It's so manipulative and honestly disgusting. OP is absolutely justified in cutting her out. OP needs to protect his peace and not let anyone guilt him into thinking otherwise. And now let's hear the community's opinion. I feel for your dad so much. It sounds like he's a kind and trusting man who gave everything to a woman who didn't deserve it. The fact that he's not bad-mouthing her shows what a good person he is, but it's heartbreaking that he's blaming himself for her actions. You're doing the right thing by standing by him and helping him rebuild. Your mom's logic is completely warped. She's trying to justify abandoning her family and stealing from you by claiming this new girl needs her more. That's not love. That's her trying to rewrite the narrative to make herself look good. You owe her absolutely nothing. Focus on your dad and yourself. You both deserve better. The audacity of your mom is unreal. She destroys your family, steals everything, and then has the nerve to ask you to move in with her and her affair partner? And now she's spreading lies to make herself look like the victim? I'm so angry on your behalf. Don't let anyone tell you to forgive her unless she shows true remorse, which, from the sounds of it, she never will. My husband and I ended up freezing some embryos years ago due to medical issues. We used them to have our now 4 children, and we now feel that we have enough. At the time of this conversation, we still had 3 left over, and we had been debating on what to do with them. Her husband is horrible. They got married before my husband and I met. He's done so many horrible things, both in general and to her. I've had so many talks with her about how she deserves better and how unacceptable his actions are. We're all now in our late 30s, and they are now trying to have kids and can't because they waited too long at his insistence. They're now looking at donor material, and she came to me. Absolutely not. This man shouldn't be a father, and definitely not to my at least biological children. I was vague and tried to avoid a real answer, but they pushed too hard on why. We deserve to have all those extra embryos, and I lost my temper a little. I ended up telling him that we, think he's a terrible person. In no way should he have children, and she would only get my biological help if she dropped him like a diseased fish. Honestly, I hate him so much. This whole thing, and the knowledge that we would only get more and more requests from them, led us to the decision that we needed to use them ourselves. It worked, and we had a single pregnancy. We've been getting some comments from friends and family that we had a child out of spite, and we're not better than anyone we have problems with. I don't know that that's true. We just couldn't destroy them, and also couldn't trust anyone else. Not the a-hole. You can refuse to give your embryos to anyone, regardless of what kind of person they are. It's your embryos. It's nobody but you and your husband's choice alone. Just hope they don't hate that child and treat them badly. Not the a-hole. You and your husband planned ahead and made sure to freeze your embryos to ensure you'd be able to have children. Your friend and her husband did not, despite choosing to wait and wait. Their entitled attitude makes them the a-hole. They have no right to comment on what you choose to do with your embryos. Everyone sucks here. You did in fact have a child out of spite, and now it's quite likely that these friends might eventually send your kid messages about the nature of their birth. Good luck. I have a feeling you'll need it. Everyone sucks here. Geez, what the actual heck? Okay. 1. Her choice who she's with. 2. While you can have opinions on it, you basically used an unborn child as a ducking bargaining chip. Like, who does that? You flaunted what you have and she can't have. 3. They both sound kinda entitled and should have just accepted no, hence why they suck as well. 4. It kinda sounds like you decided to have another kid because, oh well, they're there. 5. While your friend is being self-centered in the whole, you're doing this despite me, you can kinda see her ducked up logic, considering you made the choice to have said kid after you gave her the ultimatum. 6. Circling back slightly because, what the duck? Why didn't you make the decision to try with the eggs before you snapped and gave her said ultimatum? Because again, it sounds like you've gone, well, if she chooses to stay with the guy, we might as well use them. Me and my ex split 6 years ago and divorced, and we were together for 7 years before that. I'm 36, she's 38. A couple of years before the split, she was diagnosed with cervical cancer and had to have a hysterectomy. We weren't sure we wanted kids, but because we couldn't rule it out, we had some embryos stored. The relationship ultimately didn't last, and we got divorced and went our separate ways. I haven't seen her since not long after the divorce. Now I'm engaged to my fiancée, 30 female, and we have decided we would possibly like kids in the next few years after we're married. But in no rush. Out of the blue on Monday, I get an email from her asking to call. I sat on it for a couple of days. The split wasn't that good, to be honest, but decided to call her. She basically says she's in a relationship now, with a woman. She was bi when we met, so not that strange. And they're looking at having kids. Basically, because she has been keeping the embryos, they're going to use them and wanted to let me know as a courtesy. She said she has no plans to have me involved, and I can sign anything I want to in regards to legal rights, and her partner will be the parents. Not gonna lie, I'm not happy about this at all, and I told her so. I said no way. She said she is telling me as a courtesy, and she's going through with it regardless, and if I don't like it, I should take legal action. I was like, I ducking will, don't worry about that. My fiancé is definitely on my side and says she backs me 100%, and we'll fight it together. She feels the same as me, that when we do have kids, we don't want them to have half-siblings out there somewhere that they could meet and get into a relationship with. And also, we don't want some kid knocking on the door in, say, 15 years, asking questions. Plus, notwithstanding the chance they could try and get me for child support, despite what my ex says. She's not very trustworthy. When I told my mom, however, she said it shouldn't make a difference to me in my relationship. And even if I don't want a relationship with this kid, her and my dad would gladly be in its life if I didn't want to be. Am I the a-hole for saying no? Edit. I did sign the care of embryos to her in the divorce. It was a bad split, and I just wanted her out of my life. Edit 2. The more I read about it and talk to people, there's a very good chance I may not have a legal right to stand on. So in that case, I'll see if I can make sure I have no chance of being pursued for child support. Get some sort of restraining order or legal guarantee that they won't contact me, and tell my parents I don't want them getting involved. If they want to be a family, ex and partner, I don't see why this should be an issue. Edit 3. I can see that in the UK I do have the legal right to contest this. A few posters have posted a link verifying it. I'm definitely talking to a solicitor now. Yes, the a-hole. Since you gave them up in the divorce, you have no say. Yes, the a-hole. Based on your comment that you gave up the embryos in the divorce, they are legally hers to do with as she likes, and she was being kind letting you know she would be using them. Also, she had cervical cancer and a hysterectomy, and you are begrudging her this? You are being petty and small. Yes, the a-hole. This is her only option to have biological children. If you donated sperm, you wouldn't consider any subsequent children to be half-siblings to kids conceived with your donor sperm. Just think of this as the same basic thing, and allow her to try to have a baby. Make sure you have no legal obligation. I, 51 male, have been dating my girlfriend Millie for just over 6 months. My wife died 4 years ago, and this is my longest relationship since. However, my daughter Bianca, 21 female, disapproves. She has a lot of issues with me and Millie, but the main ones are the way we met, through a website, and that I moved Millie into our house fairly quickly, after 3 months. In my defense, losing my wife much earlier than I had ever imagined really taught me to seize and enjoy each moment, and it just felt right to both of us to have Millie there with me permanently. 2 months ago, Bianca and Millie got in dispute over our spare room, which Bianca uses as a music space, but Millie wanted to convert into a shooting space for social media, which is her job. I took Millie's side since she's going to be here longer term, so Bianca sped up her plans to move out to the next week and asked that I warn her if Millie's going to be present at any event or visit. Anyway, last week I thought it would be nice to treat Millie for her birthday, and she asked for a shopping trip and dinner out, which I was happy to do. The issue is, she specifically asked to go to a restaurant where Bianca works as a waitress, since it's known as one of the most exclusive and classy places in our town. I knew Bianca was working that day, but figured it would be alright since it's a large restaurant and a special occasion. When we arrived, we were given another server, so I thought everything was okay. About 15 minutes later, Bianca walked out from the kitchen and immediately saw us sitting there, then walked straight back without even saying hi. She kept passing the table and silently glaring daggers at Millie, which was just unnecessary when Millie tried to be polite. Millie then asked Bianca for the bill, because she was the nearest waitress, and Bianca slapped it down on the table wordlessly, then sent another waitress to see us out. Later, I called her and asked why she had behaved like a child. Bianca said that me and Millie had been deliberately flirting to upset her, which is untrue. The most that happened was a couple of kisses and a bit of footsie, giggling. Bianca also claims that when I briefly left to use the toilet, Millie called her over and told her not to contact me for the next few days, as we would be too busy engaging in private activities. I find it hard to believe Bianca, because Millie has made an effort to bond with her through organizing girly activities among other things, while Bianca has a history of manipulating others to get her way. Bianca then told me she wants no contact with Millie or me, apart from at family gatherings. My family is split over the issue, and my ex-wife's sister called to cuss me out for neglecting Bianca, who is still grieving her mother. Am I the a-hole? Yes, the a-hole. You could withhold from playing footsie while in your daughter's workspace. You could have waited and asked any other waitress for the check. You could have waited and gone a different day when daughter wasn't working. Your daughter was living there, and you're moving in a new woman after 3 months and replacing her room she was currently using. You could have waited until she moved out. I'm also really curious to how old your new daughter is. Yes, the a-hole. You've behaved awfully to your family for a random you've known for 6 months. Get a grip, dude. Yes, the a-hole. Why in the hell did you think taking her to your daughter's place of work was a good idea? Are you really that stupid? Were y'all just trying to provoke your daughter? Your daughter is going to end up completely cutting you out of her life. Maybe you should think about her feelings the next time you side with your child bride. 21 and late 20s, which I'm assuming means probably around 26 or 27. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been so vague about it. Is not that far apart. Yes, the a-hole. I don't even care about the restaurant thing, but you accelerated your daughter's plans to move out for someone you've been dating for, 4 months at that point? You couldn't have waited until she was gone? She feels displaced and hurt, and she has every right to feel that way. I, 52 male, have a daughter B, 23 female, who got married last week to her wife E, 24 female. They had been dating just under a year and decided to have an intimate wedding with me and about 20 other guests. B does not get along with my fiancée M, 29 female. B has no contact at all with M, refuses to come to our house, and has been quite low contact with me for the last year or so because of an argument she had with M. As expected, B did not invite M to the wedding, but invited me as a guest. M said she did not mind if I went without her, which I thought was very gracious in the face of rudeness. However, we recently found out that M is a few weeks pregnant with our first child, and she has been anxious and having panic attacks all the way through her pregnancy. The morning of the wedding, I found M crying on the sofa and literally shaking. I asked what was wrong, and she said she felt very panicky and unsafe alone. I offered to stay home since she was so ill, and I was worried about her, but she insisted I go to the wedding. I was too concerned to go without her, so I messaged E, informed her of the situation, and that M would be coming with me in case she had a medical emergency while I was away. E did not respond until we were already dressed up and halfway to the venue. E told us that M was not to set foot at the wedding, but at that point, I had no other option, and I wanted to be there for B. It did not go well. B did not speak to me the whole way through the wedding, and kept giving ugly looks to M. At the reception, there obviously wasn't a place set for M, and an extra chair had to be squeezed in. But I cut some food and fed her off my own plate, so I did not think it was a big deal. E came to me after dinner, said that B was not doing a father-daughter dance with me, and gave me a list of complaints. She said she was disgusted by M's dress because it was red, and that M was wrong to introduce herself as stepmother to B, and that M should not have mentioned her pregnancy at all. M only mentioned her pregnancy because she was offered a little cake, and cake makes her sick because of the pregnancy hormones. E told us to leave after dinner, and I agreed, so I did not upset B. However, when M stood up, her stomach cramped and she fell over. It only made a tiny scene, but I rushed her out and we sat in another room for 20 minutes until she felt better. E's mother came in at that point while I was just calming M down and made us get out. Since then, E and M's maternal family have been sending me angry messages about how rude we were, and E has told me they want no contact for the foreseeable future. I really meant well, and I just wanted to make everyone happy. But am I the a-hole? Edit. Since I've been asked a lot in the comments, M and B originally fell out because A. M took over B's old hobby room in my house. B. My daughter feels that M is too affectionate towards me when she is around. And C. B disapproves of me meeting M online. Hope that helps. Yes, the a-hole. B hates M and wasn't invited. But you brought her to her intimate wedding anyway. Are you stupid? M sounds awful. She guilted you into taking her, wore an inappropriate outfit, mentioned her pregnancy in an attempt to upstage your daughter, introduced herself as B's stepmom despite being 6 years older than her. Finally, she caused a scene to draw even more attention to her pregnancy. You ruined your own daughter's wedding. Extra a-hole creep points for marrying a woman half your age and starting a replacement family. Yes, the a-hole. Your fiancé is only a few weeks pregnant, and cake makes her sick because of hormones? Her stomach cramped and she fell over? Only made a tiny scene. Your much younger fiancé sounds like a terrible, attention-seeking witch, and you chose your new family over the very clear requests of your daughter. Enjoy being cut out of her life. This is Bianca talking, after I saw my dad's post and my roommate encouraged me to try to defend myself. What my dad says has grains of truth, but is so far from the full story it's basically BS. My mom did die when I was 17, and me and dad were actually very close. He started dating again a couple years after she died, and I was always very supportive, until Millie came along. Regardless of what dad says, me and Millie had an emotional relationship lasting several months, which ended in a massive bust-up, and us losing contact, and he was aware of this when I told him I recognized her. He brushed it aside and told me I would get used to it, and we would be introduced gradually. I was stupid and believed his crap. He moved her into the house without asking me, while I was visiting Mom's family for the week. She did not try to bond with me. She used our shopping days and trips as an excuse to get money off Dad for herself. She cried and begged Dad until he got rid of my music room, and he fell for it. I asked him not to be intimate when I was around because I was uncomfortable. They ignored me. Millie and Dad have since tried to contact me regularly and have shown up in unexpected places. They showed up at my church. They have apparently visited my work and asked my friends if I'm there. They have even tried messaging me to ask when I'm visiting Mom's grave, and I want them to join. They are despicable people who deserve to be cut off. I would love to hear Dad's explanation of why I'm manipulative.